Alright, man, we back with another video. Today we're gonna be giving y'all our final mock draft before we get into the draft. We're gonna do our last big board. I got some changes to be made. We're gonna talk about the Giannis trade a little bit more based off the news that we have so far. Obviously, at the time we recording this, the Giannis trade has still not happened. I'm gonna talk about some of the things before we draft, but we're gonna do the big board first. Then we're gonna talk about some of the rumors, and then we're gonna do our last mock draft. Now, with that being said, this is my last one for 2026. We will be doing more for 2027. I probably don't do as many for 2027 as 2026. Just not as hyped for 2027. Very hyped. I was always very hyped for 2026. A lot of the NIL nerfed the draft a little bit, but still excited to see where people go, how this ends up happening. And the Giannis thing just kind of adds even more to it. So yeah, if y'all do want more videos like this in the future, for future drafts, just like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff out the way. Let's hop into it. Alright, so hopping into it. So we got the tiers. Let me make sure I got these tiers right. So how many tiers do I have now? Alright, so we got 1, we got 2, we got 3, we got 4, and we got 5. Oh, we got 6. I don't have 6. I'll tell you right now, I don't have 6. So we can get rid of this tier. This ends at, I think this is gonna end now. Let me see. I gotta count it. So we got 4, then we got 7. That's 11. Plus 7, that's 18. Plus 10, that's 28. Plus 4, that's 32. So it should be 32 guys. And then we're gonna get rid of this. Oh, okay. So it just does that. Okay. Now we got 4 in this tier. This ends at 11, like I said. This one ends at 18. I hope I got this right. And then this one in. Wait. Yeah. And this one ends at 28. And then that one is the rest. Let's get into it. We got to make some changes. At the top of my board, we are making some changes. Cam Boozer, I think, is the safest pick in this one. I would now say Cam Boozer. I would probably say my board will go DP at 1. I think early in the year, at the beginning of the year, I had AJ first. Then I probably had Cam Boozer. Then I had DP. DP is now 1. AJ is 2. Cam Boozer is 3. Caleb is 4. I think Caleb, you could debate, has the most upside of the 4. I think DP has the balance of the floor and the upside. I think AJ Dybantsa has a really solid floor. He has a very crazy upside as well. I think all 3 of those guys have around the same level of upside in my opinion. I think Dybantsa has a crazy upside. How likely is he to get it? I think DP is just more likely to get his upside than AJ. I think Caleb Wilson is a very good player already, but there are some interesting question marks in terms of how he would play in today's NBA. So that's what it is. And then we got Cam Boozer, who, like I said, I think is the safest pick. He has the highest floor. He has the lowest ceiling, but he's the most likely out of the 4 to reach his ceiling. But his ceiling just doesn't compare to the rest. So I do think this is my order. Now, with that being said, moving along to tier 2. Tier 2, I have made some changes. So, tier 2. At number 5, I have Yaxel. If you want to do it based off age, then yeah, probably lower. But I think he's the 5th best player in this draft class. Again, if you want to do it based off age, I'm not mad at it. Number 6, I do have Keaton. Number 7, I actually have LeBron. I don't know how to say bro first now. I'm going to just say Phylon out of Alabama. I'm very high on him. I think he's one of the best scorers in the draft. I think as a playmaker, he's solid. And defensively, you can get away with it. I think when you think about these other guards, I think he's just a little bit more polished as an all-around offensive player than these other guys, personally. Then we have at number 8, we do have Ade Mara. I think Ade, in terms of his versatility as a big, is going to be very important. A lot of teams are going to be trying to get these bigs like this when they, I hope. Wemby didn't have a good finals. I do think the Western Conference Finals was even a little bit overrated in terms of how he played. The impact, not really. The impact, I don't think there's a team in the league that can beat the Thunder in a 7-game series, except for the Spurs, and Wemby is a large part of that. So I do think a lot of teams are going to be kind of trying to get their teams right around that. And I do think the Thunder at the end of the series kind of found a fix for that It's just Chet kind of need to lock in, but I don't know what they can do about that. But I do think they found a fix, but it didn't really matter. And then the Knicks, they kind of had that the whole series, but the Spurs, again, they blew a lot of leads in that series. So even with Wemby not having the crazy series, I think the Spurs, you could make statements around a lot of things with them. Next, at 9, I do have Flemings. I think out of all these guards, Flemings as an all-around player, as a playmaker, athleticism, defensively, and the efficiency. He was very efficient in college. That's one thing that kind of gets underrated with him. Now, the question mark for me with him is how good of a three ball is he going to be? What is the peak his playmaking ability is going to be? But I do think as a defender, out of all these guards we talked about, he's the best. And athletically, you can make that statement as well that he's arguably the most athletic guard that we've talked about. But I do have him at 9. Then, at 10, I have Darius Acuff. I think Darius Acuff has legit all-star potential. Genuinely. How good is he going to be defensively? I don't think that's ever going to be. How good is he going to be as a playmaker? I think that's where the upside comes in. How is that efficiency real? I think it probably is. So I got Acuff at 10. Then we have, last but not least in this tier, Mikal Brown. I've talked about this many times. I think Mikal Brown, Darius Acuff, very similar profiles. I think Acuff is the better polished offensive player. I think Brown, what could take him over the top over Acuff is the defensive upside. I think Acuff is the safer pick in terms of you kind of expect that to be an all-star. Mikal Brown could literally be, I think he's the biggest risk out of all these guards for me personally. And then we have tier 3. Tier 3, we started out with Cam Carr, Braden Burries. I think they used to be in tier 2, but they now, or no, a lot of those guys wasn't in tier 2. A lot of those guys, it was originally top 5 pick potential, but it's not, the names of these is not accurate no more. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, we're just gonna call it tier 2. Lottery, I guess this is kind of out like right at the edge of the lottery, I guess. Low key. I'm gonna change these. This is probably lottery. Lottery. Mid. First. Yeah. Save. Alright. So mid first. Like at the edge of the lottery. You know what I'm saying? In the middle of the teens. Into the early 20s. You know what I'm saying? Cam Carr. I think Cam Carr has an upside to be in this tier with these guys. I think it is probably smarter to put him in this tier with some of these other guys in this tier where there are very good players. I think Braden Burries, I think, is probably the best role player in this draft. You could argue, low-key a day probably is. Low-key. A day probably actually is. Oh, no. Yaxel. I probably would say Yaxel, actually. Probably would actually say Yaxel. So, never mind. But Braden Burries as a guard, for sure. Next, Nate Mint. I think Nate Mint has an interesting profile. He's not the very efficient player. I do think if he goes to the right situation, it could be very good. If he doesn't, it's a bust, in my opinion. I think that's probably a bust. It depends on where he goes. If he goes like late lottery, is that a bust? I don't know. I really don't know. Then, this is the biggest riser. I know he probably down here. Where is he at? Chris Nack. I actually have Chris Nack up here. Chris Nack is actually right behind Nate Mint. I think defensively, I think the floor is there defensively. What can he become offensively? What is the potential there? He shows a lot of flashes of being a lot more offensively than what he showed in college. It just, can he do that consistently? And I think there's a team that can try to get that out of him. But even if he does, the shooting potential, even if he doesn't become like this star offensively that he kind of flashes to be sometimes, I think the defense with the shooting ability, it kind of projects to being in that Jaren Jackson mold profile. So I do like Chris Nack a lot. Then we have Dalen Swain. Nothing really changes after this. Dalen Swain, I think as a two-way guy, not the greatest shooter, but as a playmaker, on-ball player, slasher, I think is very good. Mraz Johnson, kind of the prototypical big that you kind of want in today's game, can space the floor, very physical, hustles hard, sets great screens, great on the boards, two-way player. Yeah, I think Mraz Johnson, 6 or 17. And then at 18, we have Kareem Lopez. It's kind of how we've had it for a lot of that. Now, moving into the next tier, we got Hines starting out the next tier at 19. That is a guy that kind of did fall at that tier with a couple of those guys. I think he's been in that tier for a lot. I do think there's a little bit more question marks with him. He has a lot of versatility. It's just, is he going to be as good as you kind of want on defense for you want your big to be? That's where it's going to come down for me with him. I do think you kind of do want your bigs to be somewhat solid defensively, unless they're like ridiculously good offensively, which he has potential offensively. He does, but we'll see. And then to go alongside that, I actually have a flip. I have Henry V. Star. I think his versatility defensively with his shooting ability, I'm very high on him. I think with his size, his shooting ability, and his versatility defensively is very, very, very valuable. So I do have him at 20. And then at 21, I actually have Josh Jefferson. Very versatile wing. I think he's kind of going to be more of a forward that actually has scoring potential. So he's a versatile wing that's a solid defender, solid on the ball as a creator, and just has an actual solid upside scoring. I think Josh Jefferson, you could really argue to be even higher than this, but I have him at 21. Then at 22, I have Cole Pete. I was talking about this in the reaction. I never even thought about Cole Pete to the Lakers as even an option, but I wouldn't be surprised that it's a team that could take him. But I do have Cole Pete at 22. I think Cole Pete, from a defensive standpoint, from a playmaking standpoint, from a finishing standpoint, one of the best in this draft. It's just the shooting. What is he going to get out of that? And I do think his size is actually another thing that's kind of underrated. I'd look at him as more of a 4, but I do think there's going to be a team that probably tries to put him at the 5. I won't lie. I wouldn't be too surprised either because he is pretty young. He could grow more. I don't know. Then next, at 23, I actually have Christian Anderson. Christian Anderson, his feel for the game, the playmaking, the shooting, just the on-ball ability is very, very, very interesting to me. And I do think if you're looking for a guard in this area, Christian Anderson is the guy I would feel safest with. After that, I have Isaiah Evans. Shooter, great off-ball player, but he got a little bit of potential as an on-ball threat. And defensively, he is solid. He is solid. He can give you something defensively. He has a small frame. I will give him that. But I do think Isaiah Evans, he could be. I've talked about this multiple times. It's an area in that late 10s, 20s that he can go just based off his profile because those teams need that direly. Then next, I have after Isaiah Evans, I actually have Okari. I think on-ball ability. His on-ball ability is very, very good. I think he has a bag to him, he has an explosiveness to him, and he has a scoring ability to him. I think he has a lot of that. Defensively, what he's going to give you, but he has great measurables. He has good tape offensively. He's not the greatest playmaker either, so we'll see what that does, but he can score from all 3 levels. He can create against anything one-on-one, in my opinion. That's one thing I would say about Christian Anderson. He kind of depends on the screen a little bit more, but I think Christian Anderson as a defender, Christian Anderson as a playmaker is just better for me, personally. So I do think that's kind of where the comes down. But if you need a one-on-one guy that has star potential and you kind of picking late, I think Okori is a guy for you, personally. The next we have Allen Graves. I think this is one of the better role players in this draft. I think he's kind of expected to be a role player, and I have him at 26. And then at 27, I actually have Sturts. And then we're going to be adding Quintence. I'm actually going to throw him at 28. I think the injuries are a big problem. But defensively, this is a Bam caliber defender that also has the upside of being an elite rim protector. That's the one thing that Bam does not have, the rim protection to a crazy high level. I think Quintence can be a similar. Is he going to be as good versatility as Bam? Probably not. But have even remotely close to that versatility while also having elite rim protection is literally all-time conversations. But it comes down to the injuries. Can he stay healthy? Offensively, he is very bad. So we shall see what he is beyond that. But I do think there is a team that could take a chance on this guy defensively. And it could be very interesting. Then to go alongside that, I have Malik Thomas in the fringe tier. I think Malik Thomas, I really do like him. But the more I see about him, the more awkward his game is in terms of the size. He's kind of in between in terms of size. Is he big enough to play the 2? But he doesn't have the playmaking ability to play the 1. Defensively, I can't really tell if he's good or bad. He shows flashes of being good, but more consistently, he shows flashes of being bad. It's a very interesting game with him, but he is a very good scorer. He can score at all 3 levels. And he may not be the most athletic, but he can beat his man one-on-one in a couple of different ways. He's a crafty player, in my opinion. I think Malik Thomas at 29. Then at 28, I actually have Richie Saunders. I think Richie Saunders at 28. That's who I really would go with personally. Actually, no, I have him at 30 because I have Zuby. I have Zuby at 30. And that is pretty much my list. I have Zuby at 30. I have Richie Saunders at 31. And I have Caravan at 32. That is my big board. That is my final big board. Let's get into some of these rumors before we get into the draft. All right, so let's talk about some of the rumors that's going around right now. So right now, I guess we can talk about that when we get to the draft. I was going to talk about going at number 1. Let's talk about the Giannis stuff. So the Giannis stuff is interesting. It's expected to happen before the draft, but I've also seen some reports talking about it could go to free agency, as late as free agency. So that is a very interesting thing. And apparently, another report that just recently came out is that the Giannis trade, what they are asking for, is unrealistic. So what that is making me think, the Heat, they're asking for Bam. That's kind of what it came down when it came for Dame. It came down to the Blazers wanting Bam. If that's the case, he will not be on the Heat. I'll tell you that right now for free. Now, another thing, it seems like it's down to 2 teams. It came out that apparently the Trailblazers do not want him because it's unlikely that they could get an extension with him. So that is very interesting. Another thing that is very, very wild. This is very, very interesting. I don't know what this means. Again, I'm going to probably say this again after I say it. I don't know what this means. Giannis wants to leave the Bucks, but not Milwaukee. That is a real report. I have no clue what that means. So, yeah, very interesting. And then on the other side, we have the Celtics. So the Celtics are asking around the league about several players. I seen a trade that had to do with Derek White going to the Timberwolves for Rudy Gobert as a trade idea. I seen a trade idea about Derek White going to the Hawks for the 8th pick. Now, I feel like the Celtics are doing out fillers to see what they can do. I don't think they're trading Derek White to get Giannis. I don't think they're trading, because maybe they are to try to keep JB. I don't know. But very interesting when it came to the Celtics. It seemed like it's a couple of different teams that I've seen that they wanted to trade with. So, yeah, but the entire, like, by the way, I'm doing this early in the morning on June 20th. So, yeah, but end of the day, I literally don't know. I do think if it does get to past the draft, I do think teams like the Trailblazers will probably be back in play. I do think some of these other teams will be in play. So I do think that's interesting. I also did see the Celtics are looking at trading for Trey Murphy if they don't get Giannis. So that's another interesting one. But yeah, those are rumors that they got going around right now. Let's get into the mock. Alright, so let's do the mock, man. The number 1 pick. Now, the rumors that have been going on lately. Darryn Peterson could be in play for pick number 1. I personally think Darryn Peterson, especially when they came out and said that they're bringing back Trey. They said that they're bringing back AD. I think the person that makes the most sense is Darryn Peterson. He's a great off-ball scorer that also has great defense. The question mark with AJ Dybantsa is his shooting ability and his off-ball ability. Or not as much as that, but like spot-up shooting. Catch and shooting ability. You know? Defensively, that's another question for him. Darryn Peterson doesn't really have those questions. I feel like the question with Darryn Peterson is the playmaking. You play next to Trae Young, I think that question will probably not be as big of a deal. You know? So I do think these are real. And then we also have the report of Darryn Peterson. He has not worked out for any other team but the Wizards. That's kind of an inclination that they may have gave him a promise that they're picking him. Now, AJ Dybantsa for the whole draft process, even before the lottery, has been moving as if he's going number 1. So that is interesting. But again, we've had these discussions on these videos multiple times about how not influence. I was trying to say influence, but I don't want to say that. What is the word I'm looking for? How integral, I guess, the owner of the Jazz has been with AJ Dybantsa since he was in high school, from that Utah prep school he was at to BYU. He's been pretty integral. So I could see it going Darryn Peterson, AJ Dybantsa. Now at 3, I have literally no clue who they take at 3. Because after looking at the Bleacher Report, I don't think there's much I can really bank on using in that to really be real, to be honest. I'll be honest. I think the Grizzlies, honestly, Honestly, I think the Grizzlies may take Caleb Wilson because of the upside. But the safer pick is Cam Boozer. And I'm looking at their team. They have been going with more of the safer options. I thought about that at the time. They have been doing that. When you think about Edie, they haven't really been forcing that. Like Cedric Coward was a very safe option when they picked him. So honestly, I'm gonna go Cam Boozer. And another thing is kind of like how a lot of people have AJ Dybantsa as their number one guy. I do think they think that this top three is just the top three. So I'm going to go Cam Boozer. I'm not going to overthink that. Then at 4, you just go Caleb Wilson, in my opinion. It's just that simple. Then at 5, I think at 5, that is a LeBron, Phylon situation. Or no. Keem Wagner. I was chatting with that. Keem Wagner. Then at the Nets, I've been going Darius Acuff. But another report came out. I talked about this in the reaction. That he wants to go to the Kings. Could that deter the Nets from picking Acuff? Could that deter it? Who would the Nets pick at that pick then? Is my question. At that point, who would they pick? I have no clue. I genuinely have no clue. Could that be a Kingston Fleming situation to fix next to all them playmakers? Because a lot of those playmakers they have as well can shoot. I think Kingston Fleming could make some sense for the Nets. And for a lot of people, he was the number 5 guy in his draft for a while. I don't think they take Yaxel. I can tell you that for free. I don't think they take Yaxel. I think Kingston Fleming for me is who I'm gonna go with. And by the way, I'm doing a predictive. I'm trying to make this as close to what actually will happen. Now there will be trades, but I'm not gonna do trades because that's impossible. That's literally impossible to kind of predict. The only one I think that's probably likely to happen is either the Hawks pick is going to the Bucks or the Heat pick is going to the Bucks. But another report that did come out is that the Bucks are moving like they have the 13th pick. And they really like, apparently they really like Phylon. I don't remember who that was they like, actually. I know they like Nate Mint, but they really like somebody else. That might have been Phylon. That actually might have been Phylon. I don't remember, though. I really don't remember. The Kings, I'm going to go Acuff. I think Acuff would just be the pick there. The Hawks, whoever's the guard that's remaining, I think they would probably take Mikal at that point, personally. Braden Burries to the Mavericks actually made a lot of sense, personally. I won't lie. That actually made a lot of sense to me. I like Yaxel to the Mavericks, too, though. Do the Mavericks take that pick? I don't know. But I do think the Braden Burries pick, that's a guy that can play next to Cooper Flagg for years to come easily. Like, easily. I think that's a very safe pick. Braden Burries is a very, very safe pick, in my opinion. Then you got the Bucks. I think the Bucks at this pick take Nate Mint. Then you have the Warriors. I think at this pick they take Ademara. I 100% agree. I think the Thunder, if they have an opportunity to take Yaxel, they take Yaxel. And then the Heat, whether it's the Heat or the Bucks, I think it's Phylon. Simple as that. Now is when I get confused again. What's going to happen with the Hornets? I have literally no clue. I probably will go Morez Johnson, though. Being honest, I think Morez Johnson will probably be the player I would go for at this pick. Next, we have the Bulls. The Bulls need a center. The Bulls, I'm going to be honest, Hans makes a lot of sense for the Bulls. Should they pick him, though? I don't know if they should actually pick him. I don't know if they should actually pick him. I don't know if they pick Chris Sinak either. But maybe I think Sinak may go higher than what people think too. But maybe he doesn't. Another person that the Bulls could pick is Henry Vesar. Try to get like a Vucevic replacement, a guy that can stretch the floor. Gonna come in day one to stretch the floor. That also give you some defense versatility. And they want to play that 5 out. Oh, they did get a new coach though. They did get a new coach. They got Tiago Splitter, actually. I have no clue then. That's a throw-off. They were playing pretty fast this year, the Trailblazers, though. So, I don't know. I do like him. I've had Hans going to the Bulls a couple times in this. I've had him go to the Bulls a couple times. I just wish I had more to depend on defensively for me. If I had more to depend on defensively, I probably would be cool with that. Personally, I probably would be cool with that. I think because of Christian Act measurables and potential, I think they go Christian Act. That one may throw off everything though. The Grizzlies, I have no clue I had the Grizzlies going. I'll probably go Cam Carr. Get you a guard. The Thunder. I forgot all about the Thunder having this pick. Who the hell did the Thunder take? Dylan Swain? Who do the Thunder take? The Thunder could take a Josh Jefferson. I wouldn't be too surprised by that pick. Got his good on both ends, but give you a little bit offensive upside. He's a little bit older, but they already took your Axel, so it's like they already took that wing. Maybe go Dylan Swain. I've been doing Dylan Swain to them a couple times too. I ain't gonna lie, Isaiah Evans could be in play here because his shooting ability. I won't lie, that is pretty. Like, look at how important McCain was for them. Look how important Isaiah Joe has been for them for years. So, I think we go with kind of a guard wing though. I think the Dort loss. They kind of do want Braden Burries. They kind of want Braden Burries or Cam Carr. They're not gonna be able to get either one of those, but they love Yaxel, so supposedly that could be fake. So I don't know. Actually, low-key, Allen Graves would be a great pick. Because that's all they really want is a role player. I'm going to go Dylan Swain, though. Hornets, I'm going to go Kareem Lopez. Kind of got talked into that one, especially when I was going that earlier, but I'm kind of back on that bandwagon, to be honest. Raptors is interesting. I'll be real. Raptors is actually pretty interesting. The Raptors need shooting. They probably go with. I'll probably go Henry Vsar for them, honestly, because that's a guy that can play next to CMB and Scotty Barnes. But do they want to do that? Do they even want to do that? Like CMB played a 4, Scotty Barnes played a 3. Do they want to do that, or do they want those to be like they 4 and they 5? That's where it does get a little interesting for them. Because if they do want to play with they 4 and they 5, then you can look at a Christian Anderson. Then you can look at an Isaiah Evans. And I think Christian Anderson actually makes a lot of sense for the Raptors. Because they need a guard that can actually play make and score. And he actually not bad defensively either. I think Christian Anderson is actually an interesting pick for the Raptors. It comes down to, do they want to actually do that though? I can see this going a lot of ways. Honestly, I can see this going a lot of different ways. Honestly, I can see Christian Anderson being the pick here. I think I actually do go Christian Anderson. Next, we got the Spurs. I think if the Spurs are picking here, I've been going Allen Graves. I think Allen Graves makes sense, but they kind of do need a big. They kind of do need a big. Allen Graves, I might still go Allen Graves, to be honest. Like, even with it. But Isaiah Evans is right there. Allen Graves is good, but Isaiah Evans is right there. I'm going to go Isaiah Evans. Next, we got the Pistons. I think the Pistons take Henry Vsar. I think the Pistons, like, if the Heat trade for Giannis, I think the Pistons going to end up with Hero. So, I think that's just kind of what's going to happen. So, yeah. I don't think they will be looking for Isaiah Evans. I think they will be looking for a big, especially when you look at the fact that he's supposedly trying to trade Isaiah Stewart. I think that just makes sense. Then we had the 76ers. I think Josh Jefferson. The Hawks. Usually I go Sinak. Hawks. I'm going to go Hans for the Hawks. That Okongwu's trade is still throwing me off, by the way. Then we had the Knicks. Who did they have the Knicks getting? Who did they have the Knicks getting? Was that Quintance? That might have actually been Quintance. This might be an Allen Graves pick, to be honest. This might be where Allen Graves go. I was thinking about giving the Lakers Allen Graves, but Allen Graves going here actually makes some sense. They love them role players, them hustle, scrappy guys. I think Allen Graves actually makes a lot of sense for the Knicks. We'll go him. Next we have the Lakers. I think the Lakers take Quintance or Koa Pete. I think Koa Pete makes sense. I do. Especially when you think about the injuries, it's a lot less risk there. Cashapp the better offensive player. I think Quintance is the better defensive player. It's just simple as that. But the upside that you kind of have with Quintance next to Luka is kind of scary. I think Cashapp will already be a good offensive player. You put that next to Luka, it's going to be very, very tough to stop for sure. But defensively, with JJ Redick, I think Quintance could be ridiculous. He could be a problem, bro. That could be a ridiculous problem. I'll be honest. I think that could be a ridiculous problem. And then with Cashapp not going to the Lakers, he would end up falling to the Nuggets. I think it's either the Lakers or the Nuggets. If he don't go to either one of these two teams, I don't know where he goes. Personally, I don't. Because it just don't make sense at that point. Then we have the Celtics. The Celtics is a tough one. The Celtics is a tough one. I'ma probably say the Celtics, in my opinion, need a big. Jay Quintance might be a Celtics pick. Low key. It comes down to if they get Giannis, though. They wouldn't have his pick if they get Giannis, though. So never mind. Yeah, I can see the Celtics taking Okori if he falls this low. Get a guy that got crazy upside like that. I think they could take Okori, you know. I'm going to go Okori. I'm actually go Okori. The Timberwolves are hot seeing that pick. Because they probably wanted him. I'm going to give him Sturts, though. I think that's still a good pick. Then you got the Cavs. The Cavs. Cavs can go a couple different ways here. You can get another 4. You can get Malik. I don't think they need a wing. You either get a big or a guard. There's no guards. I think you probably just take Zuby. And then the Mavericks. I can see the Mavericks take a hit on Sergio. I can see the Mavericks take a hit on Sergio. And that other thing, that's who they had him going to. They had Sergio going to the Timberwolves. But Bennett Sturts was picked higher than that. Okori was picked higher than that. I just didn't have it swinging that way personally. Is my prediction of what I think the team's going to do personally. But obviously with trades involved, it probably throws everything off. I probably had a couple things I threw off, but it is what it is. I'll probably go, honestly, it's between these two, I guess. We get another guard. I think the safer option here is probably Richie Saunders. But I'm going to go Malik Thomas, personally. I'm going to go Malik Thomas. And that is my last draft for 2026 draft. Is what it looked like. DP first, AJ 2. We're not gonna go through it. Y'all kind of seen it. I'm gonna be real, man. I really enjoyed making the draft this year. It was a very big draft class. I thought it was gonna be an all-time. With the NIL, I don't think it's in that comfort no more, but it is still very good. You're able to get a guy like Okori at the 27th pick, and I genuinely do think 28 to 1, all of those guys could go in lotteries for other drafts. Personally, like I can see Bennett Sturts. I can see Steinbach. I can see Kareem. I can see a lot of these guys being lottery caliber picks in a lot of other drafts. But you're going all the way to 28. This is a great draft, man. It's still a great draft. I think the lottery is great. I think the top 4 is great. I think even at the end of the first round, you're still really good. So yeah, I do think the second round depth kind of got shot a little bit with some of the things that was happening with the NIL. But I do still think this first round, very, 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 very talented. But yeah, that's my mock draft. That's my final mock draft. Y'all do want more of these in the future from future drafts. Make sure to like. Make sure to subscribe. I think the next thing I actually will do, instead of doing like a future draft, I may do a redraft. We may do a couple redrafts actually. So we'll see. But yeah, if y'all do want more, like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff out the way. No more talking. It's your boy Fitz. I'm out of here.
Tell them to bring me my money. Yeah!